Guys, I think the Dodgers straight up got played by signing a starting pitcher recently. Chip Kelly is allegedly angling to join the Raiders coaching staff, and the Sparks make a trade that signals a complete franchise rebuild. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. And it is February 1st, 2024. It is absolutely gnarly looking through the windows, but at some point, I'm gonna get me some damn fresh air. I am not gonna stay all day locked inside this place. And let's brighten the mood by talking a little LA sports. If you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. It's not a day full of earth-shattering news, but it's all pretty damn interesting. You might want to chit-chat about it a little. Before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Kawhi Leonard scores 31 points yesterday. Clippers 125, Washington 109. Meanwhile, Alex Turcotte scores his first NHL goal, adds an assist, an immediate shot in the arm for the Kings. They snap a 4-game losing streak with a 4-2 victory over Nashville. The Kings, let's be real, they have sucked the most suckitude in the history of suckage ever since Christmas. But at least they're heading into the All-Star break with a win, so there's that. Meanwhile, today, the Lakers are at Boston at 4:30. Oregon's at USC at 7:30, and Oregon State will be playing UCLA at 7:30. Let's get to the news. Usually when the Dodgers sign a starting pitcher, we usually have to wait a couple of months before we find out that the guy is damaged goods, right? I mean, that's why the Dodgers wind up breaking training camp with 8 or 9 starters. We just don't know. It's like playing Russian roulette. Which one is actually going to have an arm that explodes? Or 2 or 3 that'll have an arm that explodes. It's the way Andrew Friedman builds a team. But I have to tell you, the Dodgers are at least getting a little bit more efficient because we are now finding out which pitcher is a lemon and it's not even spring training yet. So kudos for getting a little bit more efficient on that. James Paxton, who was expected to be in the starting rotation, is so messed up that the Dodgers had to go back and rework his contract down from $11 million to $7 million. Why get the discount? Why not just return him to Costco and move on to your life, right? And by the way, you might be sitting there going, James, you haven't mentioned what's wrong with Paxton yet. That's because nobody's letting us know. His agent, Scott Boras, who is notorious in many baseball circles, so notorious, in fact, the Dodgers try and do whatever it takes not to sign any of his clients, but they figured, what the hell, it's a 1-year deal, let's give it a shot. Scott Boras said he and the Dodgers will not divulge what's going on with Paxton due to HIPAA concerns. Now, for those of you who are healthy, HIPAA is a law that keeps your medical information private unless you divulge it. And you might be saying, well, that's great if you're just, Joe Schmuck. You don't want everybody to know that you have prostate cancer. I get it. But this is a professional athlete, and every other time a professional athlete gets injured, hell, many amateur athletes, when they get injured, it's divulged what's wrong. So-and-so's on the injured list. He has an oblique muscle strain. So-and-so can't play football. He turned an ankle, something like that. But they're being extremely secretive about James Paxton. And what does that tell you? What does that suggest to you? Well, I'll tell you what it suggests to me. It suggests that Scott Boras, again, extremely manipulative, extremely notorious in baseball circles, is pulling all the strings, and Paxton is probably, for all we know, for all we can guess, is close to getting a limb amputated. Remember, Paxton missed all of 2022 because he had to recover from Tommy John surgery. The guy is out there, if you've ever watched the Monty Python movies, he's like the knight that gets all of his limbs cut off and still tries to pick a fight. You got to figure that somewhere in the bowels of Dodger Stadium, Andrew Friedman is kicking something heavy, telling himself, this is what I get for trusting Scott Boras just one time. But why the hell would you trust Scott Boras? You try to avoid doing business with him for whatever it takes. What did you expect? What did you expect? There's a reason the Dodgers don't trust Scott Boras. The one time they do, they get bit. Speaking of people I do not trust Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. But he is claiming that UCLA head football coach Chip Kelly is trying to land an offensive coordinator gig with the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's the thinking. Antonio Pierce is a defensive-minded coach and would definitely need Kelly's expertise on the offensive side of the ball. And of course, Kelly would need all of those new golf courses he hasn't played on since he went to UCLA. There are very few details available, precious few even, other than to say that Florio is basing this all on scuttlebutt from NFL muckety-mucks who are over at the Senior Bowl in Alabama. In other words, no sources with the Raiders, no sources with UCLA. It's just chit-chat. So therefore, I don't buy this story for a minute, and until there's something more substantial, neither should you. But it was reported in multiple sources yesterday, so at least we should talk about it. The scribes love to call trades blockbusters. There is no such thing as a blockbuster WNBA trade. I read that yesterday and I was like, stop it. Just stop it. But I will tell you that the Sparks made a pretty damn good deal for themselves yesterday. They sent a first-round pick in 2026 to Seattle for guard Kia Nurse and 4th overall pick in this year's draft. Now, on its own, you'd have to ask, wait a second, what the hell is Seattle thinking? We'll get to that in just a moment because it actually plays back to the Sparks a little bit. For the Sparks, this accelerates a youth movement after losing franchise cornerstone Nneka Ogwumike. LA now has 3 first-round draft picks in the WNBA draft, including 2 of them in the lottery, the 2nd overall and the 4th overall. The upcoming draft is considered pretty deep. Even if you don't follow women's basketball, you've probably heard of Caitlin Clark from Iowa. She is the consensus #1. She's a guard. But let's assume that she does, in fact, go #1 in the draft. And you're sitting there going, well, James, what the hell do the Sparks do then? The draft becomes thick with power forwards and centers. The Sparks could completely rebuild their front line if they play their cards right. Now, Nurse, a guard, is also a former All-Star. So you're sitting there going, okay, they're going to rebuild. Fine. Rebuild their front line, get themselves potentially a starting guard. But they don't even know what that 2026 draft pick is going to be. For all we know, it's going to be super low. So then you come back and you say, well, why the hell would the Storm get involved with a trade that makes them look like they got jacked? Like they're a crime victim. It's because by getting rid of Nurse, they get cap space, which they could use on former Sparks player Nneka Ogwumike. So that's how it plays back. Today is deadline day for most European leagues. That is a big deal to most MLS teams, but not necessarily the Galaxy, and definitely not for LAFC, considering their reliance on South America. LAFC have added the 20th player to their roster in David Martinez, a winger who plays for the Venezuelan youth national team. The dude is 17. He does have cred, okay? He was sought after by Ajax, a respected team out in the Netherlands last summer. There are still 10 open spots on the LAFC roster. New England has hired Jeremy Springer away from the Rams as a special teams coach, which is hilarious because the Rams special teams last year were hot garbage. The hottest of garbage. Scorching garbage. If you could take all the garbage that humanity has ever created and spread it across the surface of the sun, that was what the Rams special teams were last year. So I'm not necessarily sure out of all the coaches the Rams have had hired away from them, I'm not sure they're going to lose any sleep over this one. Meanwhile, it was divulged that the Chargers are allegedly paying Jim Harbaugh $16 million a year to be their coach, and I don't care. It's not my money. But Harbaugh did spend his first week on the job contacting players just to try to get the feel of what's going to go on with off-season training, etc., and, what's going to be required, what the changes could be. One of the players Harbaugh contacted was wideout Quentin Johnston, who by any metric was a bust as a rookie last year with just 38 receptions. Now, you can easily understand why developing Johnston would matter to Harbaugh when it comes to how deep of a hole the Chargers are in with the salary cap. 4 players alone on the Chargers roster, including receivers Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, take up more than 58% of the Bolts payroll. So that makes Johnston a viable option if they can make him a weapon. If they can make him a weapon, it makes a more expensive receiver, possibly Mike Williams, expendable. And besides, Harbaugh does have experience against Johnston because Johnston played for TCU. Harbaugh, a former Michigan coach, Michigan played TCU in the college football playoffs 2 years ago. Quote, I didn't really get a chance to show who I really was and what type of player I am, but I still got the world of confidence in myself, even if nobody doesn't. And so, going into this next season, I can't wait. Like I said, I feel like I'm due for a breakout, so I'm very excited for that. That's what Johnston said about being coached by Jim Harbaugh. You may have read many articles claiming that the Lakers want DeJounte Murray of the Atlanta Hawks, and that the primary asset that the Hawks would get back would be D'Angelo Russell. Now, the Lakers played in Atlanta on Tuesday, so Hawks fans, they're reading the same things that we are. And the Hawks fans chanted at Russell, "We don't want you." Well, nobody wanted Atlanta to get the 1996 Summer Olympics. And by the way, thanks a lot for 1996. Thanks for bringing shame to our country with a terrorist attack and then arresting the wrong guy. So Atlanta, sometimes you don't get what you want. Sometimes you get what you don't want. Nobody was clamoring for your little town to go get the Olympics. Marc Gasol, Pau's brother, has retired from the NBA. He did play for the Lakers. He's most known for his 11 years out in Memphis. And Angel City has lost executive Jess Smith to a WNBA expansion team in Northern California. And as you know, we are your source for all news WNBA. Smith was the head of revenue with Angel City. She will be the president of the new WNBA team up in the Bay Area. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me if I am overstating the problem with James Paxton coming to the Dodgers. Talk to me if you even think it's a remote opportunity that Chip Kelly is going to go to the Raiders from UCLA. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corta El Queso production. Take care.